My wife had been cheating on me, and without my knowledge, she used my hard-earned money to buy a second home for her secret lover, who was also her gym trainer. I discovered the affair after going through their private chats. In one message she wrote, "My husband is too boring. Thank God I finally found a real man with passion like you." My hands trembled as I read those words, but I said nothing. I kept quiet. But after I was done with my revenge, she started screaming. To really understand this story, I need to start from the beginning. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And please leave a comment letting us know where you're watching from. My name is Daryl Cade, a 41-year-old IT specialist living in Denver, Colorado. I've spent my entire career building software solutions for companies across the country. My wife Lena is 34, elegant, and always seemed restless despite our comfortable life together. We met at a technology conference 9 years ago. She was working as a marketing coordinator for a software company. I was immediately drawn to her confidence and beauty. She had this way of commanding attention in every room she entered. Her laugh was infectious, and her eyes sparkled when she talked about her dreams. We got married 2 years later, and we've been married for 7 years now. I discovered Lena's betrayal on a fateful evening like any other. We were sitting on our couch watching a crime documentary. I was eating popcorn, and she was curled up beside me with her phone. Everything seemed normal until she suddenly got up. She announced she needed to use the bathroom and left her phone on the couch cushion. I continued watching the show, not thinking much about it. That's when I heard the notification sound from her device. The message preview showed on the screen. It was from someone named Jason, and the text was clearly inappropriate, and it read, "I want you badly." I was shocked at first as I read those words. I looked toward the bathroom door. I could hear water running. My hands were trembling as I picked up her phone. I knew I shouldn't look, but something inside me needed to know the truth. The Messenger app opened easily. What I saw got me devastated. There were dozens of messages between Lena and this Jason person. The conversations were intimate, passionate, and completely inappropriate for a married woman. But the messages were just the beginning. There were videos and photos that made everything clear. My wife had been sending pictures of herself to another man. The evidence was right there, impossible to deny or explain away. I quickly closed the app and placed the phone back exactly where she had left it. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. I tried to focus on the television, but the images were burned into my mind. When Lena returned from the bathroom, she picked up her phone and sat back down beside me. She acted completely normal, commenting on the documentary and laughing at appropriate moments. I felt like I was watching a stranger. Maybe I should have confronted her immediately. But I didn't because I was in shock. I couldn't process what I had just discovered. Part of me hoped it was all a misunderstanding, that there was some explanation I hadn't considered. I was getting angry, but I stayed calm and didn't say anything to her. I knew that if I confronted her, she would gaslight me and accuse me of invading her privacy. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed beside her, watching her peaceful face in the darkness. She looked so innocent, so beautiful. After 7 years of marriage, I never suspected she would betray me. I focused on my work, developing new software applications for the company I worked for. How could she be capable of such deception? I had trusted her with my entire heart. The next morning, I went to work as usual, but I couldn't concentrate on anything. My colleagues noticed my distraction, but I made excuses about being tired. I spent most of the day staring at my computer screen, replaying yesterday's discovery. I needed to talk to someone. I called my best friend Marcus during lunch break. We had known each other since college, and he had always been my most trusted confidant. I asked him to meet me after work. Marcus is a divorce attorney, so he understood the legal implications immediately. He listened patiently as I explained everything I had seen. His expression grew more serious with each detail I shared about Lena's betrayal. He suggested I should file for divorce immediately. He explained that I had sufficient evidence to prove adultery, which would help in the proceedings. But something inside me resisted taking that direct approach. I wasn't ready to end my marriage without understanding the full extent of her deception. I needed to know how long this had been going on, how deep the betrayal ran. Most importantly, I wanted to know who this Jason guy was. As an IT specialist, I developed new software applications for the company I worked for. I was particularly proud of an app cloning software I had created recently. The software allowed companies to monitor employee communications for security purposes. It had to be physically installed on a device, but once it was activated, it gave full access to the device's messages and files. Before I discovered my wife's betrayal, I had no idea this software would soon become personally relevant. And even though it was designed for legitimate business purposes, I could theoretically use it to monitor the activities of Lena's phone. All I needed was to have physical access to Lena's phone so that I could install it, and once activated, it would give me complete access to all her communications. I would be able to see every message, every photo, every secret she was keeping from me. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was a violation of her privacy. But I also knew I couldn't move forward without understanding the complete truth. I needed to know what I was really dealing with. That weekend, I waited for the right opportunity. Lena was taking a shower, and her phone was charging on the nightstand. I had maybe 10 minutes to install the software before she returned. I already knew her phone password because she once entered it without realizing I was watching. Even though I knew it, I never felt the need to invade her privacy, until now. My hands were shaking as I connected her phone to my laptop. The installation process took about 5 minutes. I had to be careful not to leave any traces of what I had done. When I heard the shower turn off, I quickly disconnected everything and put her phone back exactly where it had been. I pretended to be reading a book when she emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel. The software would activate automatically within 24 hours. Soon, I would have access to everything she was hiding from me. I had no idea that what I was about to discover would be far worse than simple adultery. Before we proceed, if you're enjoying the story, please like the video, subscribe to the channel for more stories like this, and comment where you're watching from. Now, let's get back to our story. 24 hours later, the software activated. I sat in my office, staring at the laptop screen as Lena's entire digital life unfolded before me. What I discovered made my original shock seem like nothing compared to this betrayal. The first thing I noticed was the volume of messages. Lena and Jason had been communicating almost every day for the past 8 months. Their conversations revealed a relationship that went far beyond simple physical attraction or momentary weakness. The full name of her secret lover is Jason Williams. He is 34 years old and works as a personal trainer at Elite Fitness, a gym where Lena had been spending so much time recently. He was originally from Texas, separated from his wife, and had been struggling financially since his separation. According to their messages, Jason had been married to a woman named Sarah for 5 years. They had a child together, a 3-year-old daughter named Jessica. His divorce had been messy and expensive, leaving him with significant debt. Lena had positioned herself as his financial savior. She talked about how she wanted to help him get back on his feet, how she believed in his potential. She made it sound noble. The conversations revealed how their relationship had developed. It started with innocent fitness advice and gradually became more personal. Jason would compliment her appearance, and she would respond with increasing enthusiasm. Their exchanges became more intimate over time. But the physical relationship was just the surface. She had been giving him money regularly, paying for his rent and even his car payments. I didn't know it then, but she had been accessing my business account to fund this secret relationship. The account contained money I had been saving for a software development project I planned to launch after retirement. It represented years of careful planning and sacrifice. The messages showed that Lena had been systematically draining this account over the past 6 months. She would transfer money to Jason in small amounts. She had already taken over $15,000. Jason seemed genuinely grateful for her help. He would mention needing money for various expenses, and she would immediately offer to help. He had learned to push the right emotional buttons. Their conversations also revealed something that made me even more angry. Lena had been complaining about me constantly, painting me as boring, predictable, and emotionally distant. She described our marriage as a mistake she had made when she was young and naive. She told Jason that I was too focused on work to pay attention to her needs. She claimed I had become complacent and taken her for granted. Some of her complaints were probably valid, but her solution was completely wrong. The most painful message came from a conversation they had 3 weeks ago. Lena wrote about how she wished she had met Jason before marrying me. She said she felt trapped in a life that didn't match her dreams and desires. Jason encouraged these feelings, telling her she deserved better than what she had settled for. He painted himself as the passionate, adventurous man who could give her the excitement she craved. But then I discovered something else. The messages revealed that Lena had been planning something much bigger than just an affair. She had been working with Jason to create a complete alternate life. Using money from my business account, she had secretly purchased a small house in a neighborhood across town. The property was registered under a shell company name to avoid detection. She had been furnishing it over the past 2 months. The house was meant to serve as their private meeting place, but it was also part of a larger plan. Lena had been discussing the possibility of leaving me entirely and starting fresh with Jason. She saw this property as the foundation of their new life together. I realized that what I had initially thought was just an affair was actually a calculated plan to keep stealing my money and abandon our marriage. She had been methodically preparing for her exit while pretending to be a loving wife. The most devastating part was reading how she really felt about me. In one message, she wrote that living with me had become unbearable. She described me as emotionally dead, someone who had given up on adventure and was dragging her down with him. She told Jason that I was too boring to satisfy a woman with her needs and desires. She thanked God for bringing a real man with passion into her life. Those words really hurt me as I read through them. At this point, I already had all the evidence I needed, and I should have confronted her immediately with this evidence. But I was consumed by rage and hurt. I wanted her to suffer the way she had made me suffer. I wanted her to understand what it felt like to be betrayed. That's when I started planning my revenge. I realized that simply ending our marriage wouldn't be enough. She had stolen my money, violated my trust, and destroyed 7 years of shared history. She deserved consequences that matched her actions. The surveillance software continued providing me with real-time access to their communications. I watched as they planned their secret meetings, discussed their dreams for the future, and coordinated their deception. Every message made my anger grow stronger. I decided that exposing their affair publicly would be the most effective way to destroy what they had built together. I wanted everyone to see them for what they really were: selfish, manipulative people who had no regard for the lives they were destroying. I started by gathering all the evidence I would need. I took screenshots of their most damaging conversations, saved copies of their videos and photos, and documented all the financial transactions. I wanted to make sure I had proof of everything they had done. The plan I developed was simple but devastating. I would release their videos and images online, making sure their affair became public knowledge. This would destroy their reputations and force them to face the consequences of their choices. I created anonymous social media accounts to distribute the evidence. I wanted to make sure the information would spread quickly and reach as many people as possible. Their betrayal would become public knowledge within hours. But I also wanted to protect myself legally. I consulted with Marcus about the potential consequences of my planned actions. He warned me about privacy laws and the possibility of legal retaliation, but I was beyond caring about such concerns. The evidence I had gathered painted a clear picture of systematic financial fraud and emotional manipulation. I felt justified in exposing their behavior, regardless of the legal risks involved. They had made their choices, and now they would face the consequences. 2 weeks after discovering the full extent of their betrayal, I put my plan into action. The timing was crucial. I waited until a Friday evening when both Lena and Jason would be active on social media. I wanted maximum exposure for what I was about to reveal. Their perfect weekend was about to become a nightmare. I began by posting the evidence on multiple anonymous social media accounts. I shared their conversations on platforms where their friends, family, and colleagues would see them. I wanted their entire social circle to know the truth about their relationship. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within the first hour, the posts had been shared dozens of times. People were shocked by the explicit nature of their communications and the calculated way they had planned their affair. Jason's gym colleagues were among the first to see the evidence. Lena's social media followers were equally horrified. She had always presented herself as a devoted wife and successful professional. The contrast between her public image and private behavior was stark and damaging to her reputation. I watched from my computer as the story spread across different platforms. People were commenting, sharing, and discussing the details of their affair. The public humiliation was swift and merciless, exactly what I had hoped for. That evening, Lena came home crying, saying that someone was trying to ruin her by spreading fake AI videos of her having an affair. She said she was completely innocent and wasn't having an affair with anyone. I acted like I didn't know anything. I asked her to show me the posts, and she did. When I watched the videos on her phone, I pretended to be shocked. She immediately started begging me to believe they were fake and told me not to worry. She asked me to use my IT skills to find out who was behind it. I played along and promised to help her, but I was lying. I was enjoying every second of my revenge. Meanwhile, Elite Fitness had strict policies about personal trainers maintaining appropriate relationships with clients. The revelation that Jason had been having an affair with a married client was career-destroying news. Elite Fitness terminated Jason's employment the following day after the scandal broke. He lost his primary source of income, and his professional reputation in the fitness industry was destroyed. No reputable gym would hire him after this exposure. But the consequences for Lena were equally severe. Her employer, a marketing firm that worked with family-oriented businesses, was concerned about the impact on their corporate image. They placed her on administrative leave while they evaluated the situation. Her family was devastated by the revelation. Her parents had always been proud of her marriage and professional success. Learning about her affair and the financial theft through social media was particularly painful for them. I watched all of this unfold with a mixture of satisfaction and growing unease. The public humiliation was even more complete than I had anticipated. Their lives were being destroyed in real time, and there was no way to stop the momentum. Lena's reaction was exactly what I had expected. She began frantically calling and texting everyone she knew, trying to explain the situation. She claimed the evidence had been manipulated, that someone was trying to destroy her reputation with fake information. Her desperate attempts to claim the evidence was fabricated only made her look more guilty and dishonest. 3 days after the initial revelation, Lena came home in a state of complete panic. She had been crying for hours, and her hands were shaking as she tried to talk to me. She begged me to help her figure out who had leaked her private communications. I maintained my act of innocent confusion and concern. I expressed shock at the revelations and asked how someone could have gained access to such private information. This was when she admitted that she had been chatting with this Jason guy, but claimed it was only about fitness routines. She still lied, saying she wasn't having an affair with him and that the videos were fake and created with AI. Looking back, I should have felt some sympathy for her obvious distress. But I was still too angry about her betrayal to care about her suffering. I felt she was getting exactly what she deserved for her months of deception and theft. I had already begun protecting my assets by transferring them to accounts in Marcus's name. As my attorney, he could hold them in trust while I prepared for the inevitable divorce proceedings. I wanted to make sure Lena couldn't access anything else. The house, cars, and other major assets were all quietly transferred to Marcus's legal custody. On paper, I appeared to own almost nothing of value. This would be crucial during the divorce settlement negotiations that were surely coming. Lena had no idea that I was already preparing for our legal separation. She was too focused on managing the immediate crisis of her public humiliation to notice the subtle changes in our financial arrangements. I realized that my revenge was entering a new phase. The public exposure had been just the beginning. Now I needed to prepare for the legal and financial battles that would determine the final outcome of this situation. Lena's employer made their decision after a week of internal discussions. They terminated her employment, citing concerns about her judgment and the potential impact on client relationships. Her professional reputation was completely destroyed. Her parents cut off all communication and asked her to stay away from family gatherings until the situation was resolved. They were embarrassed by the public nature of the scandal and worried about how it might affect their own social standing. Lena finally realized that someone with intimate knowledge of her communications had orchestrated the leak. She became increasingly paranoid and suspicious, constantly checking her phone and computer for signs of surveillance or hacking. She hired a private investigator to try to identify who had accessed her private messages. I knew I could get into serious trouble if it was traced back to me, especially if Lena found out there was spying software on her phone and they discovered I was the one who made it. My revenge plan would backfire, and I'd be the one to lose everything. The investigation focused on Jason's associates and former girlfriends, but they were looking in all the wrong places for the real culprit. I maintained my facade of a supportive husband throughout this period. I would comfort Lena when she cried, help her brainstorm about possible suspects, and express my own shock at the intimate details that had been revealed about her relationship. Privately, I was trying to find a way to access her phone and uninstall the spying software so nothing could be traced back to me, and I could get ready for the final phase of my revenge. The public humiliation had been satisfying, but I wanted to make sure Lena would face permanent consequences for her betrayal and theft. Marcus helped me finalize the asset protection measures. Everything of value was now legally held in trust accounts that Lena couldn't access, so that when I set the divorce proceedings in motion, she would discover that I appeared to own almost nothing. The business account that she had been stealing from was also protected. I had documentation proving that she had taken over $15,000 without authorization. This evidence would be crucial in the legal proceedings. 3 weeks after the scandal broke, I finally felt safe enough to uninstall the spying software from her phone while she was asleep. When I went to my computer to review the evidence from her chats with Jason, I discovered they had spoken just 2 days ago and were planning to continue their relationship in a new location. She was trying to escape the consequences of her actions. In her latest message to Jason, she said she had fallen in love with him and couldn't imagine life without him. She told him their connection was the deepest she had ever felt and claimed she had been planning to ask for a divorce even before the scandal. She said she had been unhappy for years, but hadn't known how to tell me. The affair had shown her what real passion and excitement felt like. I was reading this chat with growing amazement. She was actually trying to justify her betrayal by claiming it was about love and personal fulfillment. She seemed to believe that her feelings excused the theft and deception. That night, I made my final decision. I would file for divorce immediately and ensure that she received nothing from our marriage. She had made her choice, and now she would live with the consequences of that decision. The next morning, I contacted Marcus and instructed him to begin divorce proceedings. I wanted to make sure all the evidence of her financial fraud and adultery would be presented in court. Justice would be served through the legal system. But I also realized that my revenge had already succeeded beyond my wildest expectations. Lena's life was destroyed, her reputation was ruined, and her relationship with Jason was built on a foundation of public scandal and mutual betrayal. I had gotten everything I wanted from my elaborate plan. The question now was whether the victory would be worth the cost of destroying so many lives in the process. I told her I wanted a divorce the next morning, and she didn't seem surprised. She just said, okay, and walked out. She didn't even ask why I suddenly changed my mind. We separated for a while, and my best guess is that she went to live with Jason. The divorce proceedings began 6 months after the scandal broke. Lena returned to Denver with a cheap attorney and the desperate hope that she could salvage something from our marriage. She had no idea what was waiting for her in that courtroom. Her relationship with Jason had already fallen apart. Living together had revealed the shallow foundation of their connection. Without the excitement of secrecy and stolen money, they had nothing substantial to build a relationship on. Jason was working at a small, low-end gym for minimum wage. His reputation in the fitness industry was destroyed. He was living in a studio apartment. But the real shock came when Lena discovered that I legally owned almost nothing. The house, cars, bank accounts, and investment portfolios had all been transferred to Marcus's name months before the divorce proceedings began. Her attorney tried to argue that the transfers were fraudulent and designed to hide marital assets. But Marcus had documented everything properly, and the transfers had been completed before any divorce papers were filed. The legal maneuvers were completely legitimate. Lena broke down in the courtroom when she realized the full extent of my preparation. She had expected to receive maybe half of everything we had built together over 7 years. Instead, she was walking away with almost nothing. The judge was particularly harsh in his ruling because of the evidence of financial fraud. Lena had stolen over $15,000 from my business account to fund her affair. She was ordered to pay restitution, but she had no money to cover the debt. As we left the courthouse, Lena looked at me with a mixture of hatred and defeat. She finally began to have a clue that I had been the one behind the entire scandal, but there was no way to prove it. Her paranoid investigations had been focused on the wrong people all along. She asked me directly if I had been responsible for destroying her life. I looked her in the eyes and told her that I was too boring to be capable of such elaborate revenge. I hoped she would find a real man with passion, just like she had wanted. Comment below about what part of this story resonated most with you. Like and subscribe if you want more content like this that can help protect you and your loved ones from similar betrayals. Until next time, keep living with grace and purpose.